Leanne Tweeden, now a KABC radio host in Los Angeles, says that on a USO tour back in 2006, Al Franken, despite her objections, insisted on rehearsing a skit that called for them to kiss. Here's a shot of one of the actual shows.
He stuck his tongue down my mouth, and I remember I pushed him off with my hands. And I just remember I almost punched him, and I just walked out away from him, and I walked out, and I just wanted to find a bathroom, and I just wanted to rinse my mouth out.
Franken apologized for that and the groping photo taken while Tweeden was asleep on a plane, saying he is ashamed. Quote, "There's no excuse. I look at it now and I feel disgusted with myself. It isn't funny. It's completely inappropriate. It's obvious how Leanne would feel violated by that picture." That was actually his second apology, Emily. And so is the explosion of coverage over Al Franken, former SNL star, what he did 11 years ago before he was a senator, that awful photo that we've all just keep staring at, is it fueled by the photo? Well, how would the story have played if there was no picture? Because usually you don't have pictures in these cases.
Yes, I think it's very much fueled by the photo, which in some people, again, I said this earlier, is that, when he's in your camp, you try to apply maybe some more nuance to it. So some people were going so far as to zoom in on the photo and to say, well, the touch is so light, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And I mean, I think Casey Hunt at MSNBC called it mock groping. And I mean, even Al Franken hasn't disputed the context of the picture that we've heard about. So when you have photographic evidence, and that photo is just, you get such a visceral reaction to it. It's huge. It's huge.
I must say that many liberal outlets have covered the Franken story extensively, including a number of MSNBC shows with the lead story in the liberal Huffington Post, if not quite with the glee that you see on the right after the story broke.
But they're also, you brought up Bill Clinton before. I've also seen a lot of media coverage now of this whole idea of Bill Clinton and whether or not the behavior that he had with Monica Lewinsky and the fact that he settled out of court with, another accuser, whether or not that is something that should have been acceptable during that time.
More on that in a few moments. But do you agree that liberals are not going out of their way to defend Al Franken because the conduct is basically indefensible?
But I think that you could say the same thing of conservatives here. You're sort of in a situation where if you defend him, that that doesn't look good for you. But if you don't stand up against what are very troubling allegations, then that also doesn't play well for you. And I think you're seeing that play out on both sides here.
I was going to say, I think a lot of conservatives have stuck their necks out to say the allegation against Roy Moore are serious and look really bad. In all fairness,
not as many.
But liberals have also said, look, the stuff against Al Franken is not good. He should be investigated with ethics.
So there's a media consensus, and I think at this table, that Al Franken's behavior was inexcusable. But would it have been such a huge media story a year ago if we were not in the hothouse environment of Roy Moore, Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Louis C.K., Bill O'Reilly, Mark Halperin, and so on? Would it have been more of a kind of like a two-day embarrassment?
I think it would have been a little bit more than that because of the photo. I mean, that photo was lightning at any time or in any context. But your question is right. It's the point I was about to make before you even asked it. The Weinstein context has changed everything, and it's changed the way we talk about these things and the way we write about these things. And I think you're going to see, at least for a while, there will inevitably be some backlash of some kind, I guess. People are already writing about that. But I think we're going to see for a while that people in the media, liberals and conservative opinion people, are going to be very careful to ask themselves, now, would I react the same way if this were a Republican? Would I react the same way if this were a Democrat? You have liberal writers for Slate and Salon and New York Times op-ed page, Michelle Goldberg, saying Franken should resign. Not all Democrats go that far, but it does underscore the point that people on the left who probably like Al Franken's policies, maybe like him personally, some of them at least, are not letting him off the hook.
No, and it's completely changed our lens through which we see charges and allegations of sexual harassment, because everyone is learning as these reports are put into the press. They're learning what patterns look like, what specific credible patterns look like. I mean, when you look at the Harvey Weinstein story, when you look at, there's so many similarities, Bill Clinton asking women up to their hotel rooms after setting meetings in different places. So we're all learning what this really looks like, and it's positive.
But that's also why I'm saying that this is not a story that's going to go away for this White House. So the president cannot sit back and refuse to get involved, because people in America are looking to this president, to the leader of the nation, to weigh in on this in some way, shape, or form. Look, he never personally spoke out and said that these allegations are very troubling and deeply troubling if they're true. That is not something that
he said. If the allegations are true, Judge Moore should step aside.
He should do the right thing. But this was also on a gaggle in a plane, not on camera.
It was a written statement.
And the statements that Sarah Huckabee Sanders gave were written statements. I think that as these conversations continue, people will be continuing to look to the president to come on camera and say, this is not okay.
And with that, Francesca Chambers, Michael Tomasky, Emily Jasinski, thanks very much for coming by this Sunday Ahead. Jeff Sessions considers a special counsel for Hillary Clinton, but many in the media slam that as a potential abuse of power. But up next, Congress now confronting its own problems with sexual harassment. Why hasn't that gotten more coverage over the years?